Hey everyone, and welcome to another Siege and Sandfox live stream. I'm Chris Wilson, the designer of the project, and today is, oh my god, let's flip over, milestone update. So, yeah, we've done quite a lot, and basically I figured what was best to do is just literally flick through what we've got. So, hang on, you can go away. Computers, man. So, the first thing is polishing up a lot of the AI stuff that Joe has been doing for us. I've shown a lot of it before, but there's a few other bits and pieces that we haven't seen yet. So I'm literally looking at the milestone thing so I can work down it. But probably the easiest thing to show is, because it doesn't do a lot yet, but it's something we're going to use in the future a lot. As you can see, we've got these different zones. The idea is that in time, there'll be places where the AI will be friendly to you or indifferent to you. And the obvious thing is a normal thing is kind of hostile. It's early days, so we don't have them doing anything fancy. All we have now is that if you're in one of these and they're in one of these, then they won't attack you, and otherwise they will either attack you or ignore you. But that's one of these sort of world building things we're going to need, so it's nice to get that in early. A lot of the bigger stuff I can jump straight to before. I think we've talked a bit about it. Let's just grab one of these guys, put him somewhere more useful, start up the game. Oh, remember to turn my controller on. Come on, controller. Yeah, okay. And turn on the debug stuff that we've covered before. So let's think about this. Let's see if I can just get this guy to follow me and I can show a few other things. So one thing to note immediately is if we get him to come over here we go, chase after me. And if I disappear down this little space, you can see there's another line of sight check we've got there. I wonder if I can pause this. Oh, they don't stay, do they? Well, you can see we've got another line of sight check there, and that's to stop them seeing through narrow gaps like this where it probably doesn't seem appropriate for them to actually follow you. Well, I say appropriate. At the moment they can't, and it seems weird when they do. So this means that if you disappear into something this height, they just stop being able to see you. And you can see that brings me on to the next thing, that it drops down a last known position thing, which is, you know, the ghost we've talked about before. Now, I think he's a bit stuck here for other boring reasons, but the general gist is that this now works exactly as I wanted. Like, we've talked before about how everything is an interest source. So I can spoof fake ones like this, and he notices them. We'll get around to that in a minute. But that could work for when he sees you or when he hears a noise or anything. Now, the last known position works the same way. So basically, they will investigate them in pretty much exactly the same way. And having these sort of larger generic systems makes me feel so confident that going forward, we can actually, like, you know, get this to fit all of our different requirements. I'm just going to move this guy over and see if he'll give up. He's not going to give up, but trust me, it does work. The joys of doing live demos. So what else? So yeah, another thing in this milestone, it seems obvious now, but we should probably cover, is this whole interest source system, everything being based around that. And for example, here, if I spoof one, multiple AI noticing things and them deciding what to do. That was all a general investigation for this milestone. It's like, is this going to work? Again, as I mentioned last time, it's based heavily upon a system that was described for Mark of the Ninja, but we're hooking this into how Unreal Engine does perception. So there's a bit more back and forth with the two systems sort of agreeing with each other. With the Mark of the Ninja system, basically, as soon it handles everything, right? The interest source itself just says, you have sensed me and I've determined that you have. Whereas with what we have now, there's a bit of back and forth. But anyway, that was an investigation for this milestone. That's definitely complete, right? We know this works. What else did we have here as well? So there was a general pass on what I call target behavior, which is kind of what this guy is doing now. Basically, if he can chase after me, he will chase after me. I wanted to see if he could do that. If he wanted to chase after me, he can chase after me. And also, even though it's a little ropey at the moment, also he can sort of, you know, give up and return to other things he's doing or not. Come on, here we go. So I think we're just upsetting him by having the last known position somewhere he can see but can't reach. And Another thing that's worth mentioning here is you'll notice, oh yeah, haha, I keep forgetting I can't use that. But you'll notice where this is placed is not actually technically the last place he saw me. So that's tying into something else we had before, but we kind of turned off because it gets confusing, but it's hooked back in, is, I don't know where I picked up this phrase, but we basically call it the sixth sense. And all that means is basically, based on a few conditions now, when the AI loses sight of the player, they're allowed to keep knowing where they are for a small amount of time. It's to basically get the cheapest form of sort of intuition possible. So rather than having him trying to do some sort of dead reckoning or some estimation of where you might move from where he last saw you, which is dead reckoning, say the same thing twice, he just cheats. But he cheats in a small way and in a controlled way that I think it's going to look natural most of the time. Again, it's something many stealth games do. But that functionality is back in there. And that ties together with the last known position. There's still some question marks over whether it might still make sense for the actual marker to be where he last sees you, because in this case it's obvious he didn't see you there. But then it might look weird because you'll see him investigate a point that isn't that. But we'll see. But it's a variable that I know we'll need to have, so it's good that it's there. Okay, let me just let me out of here, game. See what else we got. So we had the target behavior. We had obviously all the debug tools as well, like that was a big pass. These are super useful, and you know, they're a combination of things I always knew were useful where I used to work before in previous companies, and stuff that sort of, you know, people just keep asking if we could have and didn't have. Being able to, you know, teleport anywhere you want, being able to drag teleport is useful as well, and that works on AI as well, which is great. It's a thing where them sharing systems is nice. Oh, and AI can notice each other now. Can they? Maybe. Anyway, I certainly know in some circumstances they can. And my personal favorite, just because it's something I use all the time, and it sounds like nothing until you're working all day, is again, left stick click, left bumper, puts down a marker, and then left stick click, right bumper, takes you back there. And the cool thing about that is, it wasn't, well, some of it came in this milestone, but we talked about it before, is due to some of the camera improvements, I believe. Again, famous last words, so I'm going to try it first. I go over here. Yes. So before we had very specific hacks for fading in the camera, fading it out, and sort of teleporting it over to where this thing was. Instead now, the camera is generic and smart enough that if it's still on screen, boop, it can just move over. But if it's beyond, you know, beyond the bounds of the screen, okay, well, it's a little bit further than that. But the point is, it just kind of handles it. You saw it happen before. I'm not a liar, not a complete liar, just a partial liar. Come on. There you go. So it must, the boundaries obviously don't align to the screen. I don't know what they are exactly. Still working on that, but that's cool. And has proved very useful. So we talked about the teleporter before. It's a teleporter. It's really useful, but it's not too fancy to go into that. And of course, the other thing is, I'm just taking this all for granted now. That shows how far it's come. Having hearing sources and visual sources work the same way. So when I'm running along, I think actually we've got them turned off for now for another reason. But the point is, the system is the same system that makes the noise rings, the same system that is making these fake ones here, that I'm just clicking the mouse. It's all the same, and it all gets fed in the same way, rather than before they used to be two quite distinctly different pipelines, which, you know, was a bit of a mess. But hey, we had to, you know, work our way out there. What else? Let's look. Yeah, this is a cool one. So the hearing is basically a radius, right? It draws out a circle, and if they are within it, they heard it, and if they're without it, they don't hear it. But obviously that leads to weird situations, like, for example, people who can't do anything about a noise, it's probably beneficial that they don't hear it. And also situations like, let's say if you close or open the door, the player expectation is that that would, you know, stop the sound from traveling so far. And obviously that opens up sort of cool gameplay opportunities. So we've got a basic pass of that. I still suspect we might need like a second nav mesh to kind of capture all the situations I'm thinking of. But what we've got now works pretty well. If you see, if I fake one here, those two guys hear it and they draw the lines out. And also, as a debug, you might be able to see it. it says ignoring noise because the walls are too thick. So basically they're within the radius, but then you just do a trace and you're like, nope, I can't hear through that. The other things you ignore, so again, it's trying to short circuit your way out of it, right? So if it's too thick, don't do it. And also, if I could literally see it, then, you know, hey, if I could see it, I can definitely hear it. Other situations, I'm trying to think of a good contrived one in here. Oh yeah, of course, this little platform. I believe, I grabbed this guy here, this is so useful to do this. Okay, needs a little bit of looking at, but the idea would be that there are situations where they can path correctly, and so they are allowed to hear these things. But the point is, we got the basic system in, it's just going to be some playing around with it. Patrols, yep, they all work. We don't have any in here at the moment, but we're actually going into the main world now and throwing out all the old stuff, which is quite cathartic, and sticking in some new stuff. Okay. Oh, yes, that's the main stuff here. One other thing I didn't mention, is just trying to, you'll notice that a lot of the time we show this, the AI, they're doing kind of the right things now, but the animations are not there. They physically exist, like all the flipbooks are there. We'll change some stuff behind the scenes, how that's handled, so it's not up and running. But in terms of adding flavor without actually changing the behavior, there's a lot of that coming. And this thing here is going to be part of it. These are just little areas you can define that say, hey, if you enter this area and you're at a certain alert level, then do this particular animation. So for example, this could be things like maybe on ledges, you want to do a very specific kind of search. Excuse me, been a long day. Or you might end up, we might end up doing things more complicated, like, I don't know, let's say searching drawers or something. So we can say, hey, if you're of a certain alert level, let's see, is it under there? Yeah. I try not to dive into this too much. I don't want to break stuff. So actually, wait, we don't even need that part for today because I want this to be high level as it's a kind of milestone overview. We can dive into the specific features another time. So you can give them an action. You can say they got to be facing a certain way, and oh, that's cool. There you go. If it's eligible, dependent on a certain level of suspicion. So yeah, it's just to add some flavor, as I said. It's not meant to alter their behavior, make them do things they wouldn't do anyway. But if they're already searching there, they might do something different. So yeah, that's a quick roundup of that stuff. I mean, basically, the good thing about this is it's the stuff we weren't sure about definitely works. Like, there's loads of bugs, of course, but the core functionality is there. So now we can just basically break it. This next milestone, one of the tasks is just to basically put as much weight as we can on the AI as possible and see what we need to do. But I believe now, finally, a mere year later than expected. Well, no, that's not fair. A year later than when I started on it, I think we have the tools to do anything we need to do. So that's kind of cool. But you know what? I'm a designer, and these giant grey boxes with weird squares is like the coolest thing ever to me. But something tells me not everyone feels that way. So let's move over to something a bit prettier. Who did the pretty stuff? Yes, our artist Keith did. So let's hop over to the test bed. Don't need to save any of that stuff. Okay. So you've probably seen me, or one of the artists talking about, been thinking about doing, hang on. Yes. Doing normal map stuff. It's something we didn't have to start with. Obviously, we had some layers, as you can see anyway, to get that kind of depth ahead of doing proper stuff with parallax. But what we weren't doing to start with was actual normal map stuff. And when I was talking about it before, like why we haven't had a lot of sort of incremental, like, you know, cool stuff we could show you is because someone's been slaving away in the pixel mines. So, you know, hey, I'm sure everyone, not everyone, but many people have seen normal maps before. There's nothing special about them, you know, in isolation. The crucial thing to note, though, for anyone who's just kind of less familiar with it, this wasn't a situation where obviously literal 3D models existed and you kind of just, you know, you can generate a base. Keith has had to generate these with some tools in Photoshop, using the 2D textures as reference. And the controls for this work differently to everything else. It's so confusing. As you can see, there's a lot of them, and that's not even all of them, because there's the whole, this is the background set, there's a whole foreground set as well. So that so there's a lot of stuff there. And obviously, you know, we couldn't go each week, hey, we've done another bit, but what I can do is show you a bit more of what it looks like in game. So there's a number of bits that look cool. I mean, it all looks cool, but I'm trying to, let's see. I mean, you can see even in like the normal bits, if you just, let's just grab it and drag it down the old corridor, it looks nice in general anyway. It's, you know, it's a fairly subtle effect. But what we can do is, if you look at certain features, like say this, where you've got more angles in it, as you can see, it's a lot more pronounced. Delicious. And for the full hit, getting, you know, using your pro lighting strategies, it becomes kind of more pronounced, you know, how much more this is than just flat lighting on top of it if you grab two of them. So if I move these about a little bit, you can see, if I can actually just get a little bit more here, you can see that's quite a nice effect. And I think it's relatively subtle. That's the balance we're trying to strike. It's not meant to be too in your face. It's just to give you a bit more depth. And other situations as well, like, as you've probably, well, hopefully you haven't noticed, but as you may have noticed, like, we don't do any, you know, proper shadowing in the game, because, you know, it doesn't mix too well with the style. However, you can sort of, you know, imply a lot of shadows. Like if you look at this detail up here, if I just zoom out a little bit, I've gone a bit crazy. If you look at those details up there, so you can see, you can sort of imply shadow via the lighting on it without actually having, you know, real shadows. It's all smoke and mirrors, video games. And it's not, I'm trying to think of the best places here. So there's some, this is very nice as well, like this bookshelf stuff with loads of flasks and stuff on it. If I grab this guy down here, boop. And if you see, if you move these around, yeah. Again, fairly subtle compared to some of the standards I've seen, but I think it looks nice. And for those of you into that sort of thing, wow, here we go. So I nearly even understand this, and it's been nicely commented. So the only bit that's different is the normal stuff. We'll come and have a look at that. But oh yes, okay, I remember we've got this glint stuff that we're using a bit. And we do different things, foreground and background, makes sense. This here, spoilers. So we're looking to something that's hopefully come up in the next milestone, maybe the one after that, is we are looking to add, it's annoying because the correct term isn't fog of war, but we can't decide what it is. Something to limit the amount the player can see. Because one of the issues you have with a 2D game that's stealth-based is obviously, you know, you can see in all directions, right? You know, you can see enemies that you wouldn't be able to see normally. So you need something that obscures those elements. And that's something we're going to do. And we're already preparing here. We've got a different particular effect for when something is not within your sort of, it's not a cone, but your area of vision. But anyway, that's not the focus. The focus is the normal maps, right? So you've got your normals. Again, this is pretty standard stuff for 3D, but for us, it's kind of a bit different. And to turn it off, I can just totally do this and then do this. And then here we go. If we pop over here, that's it. Beautiful. No, there we go. So you can see this is what we had before, more or less. And having the lights, you know, is still a nice effect. You know, combining. Sorry, let's just move this over here. Combining, you know, Epic's lovely lights with our own stuff. This still looks good. But if I stick it back again, which one did I take out? There it is. Sorry, I'm doing this on another screen because it's not very exciting. You know what? Why would I do that? So get this, hook it back up to the normal, hit this, make a noise, and there we go. Let it redo. There we go. So it's nice. I think these are like, you know, I'm trying to draw your attention to it, but you can see obviously there's no real depth except we have distinct layers for other reasons. So I've obviously shown off the sort of, you know, that's the intense stuff, but also I'm looking forward to the much more subtle things like, you know, if we think of darker areas of the game, If I grab this first and do this, we can see, like, imagine having a player moving through a darkened area, like you see on these circular cogs. That's quite, quite prominent, even with a relatively low strength light. That looks cool, right? So Eve, it's all going to be about minor stuff. We don't need to sort of stick it too much, throw it up in your face all the time. Okay, so that's a quick look at that. Yeah. And so thinking of that, actually, so doing all the normal stuff like that, speaking of us wanting to make it fairly subtle, another thing I'm hoping to make quite subtle is, if I remember where it lives, yeah, let's hope this level still works, otherwise I'm going to be embarrassed. Come on, you can do this. So another thing for this milestone was to get our first implementation of points of interest. Don't worry about that. That's because our new AI has rolled in and decimated all the old stuff. So I wonder if this has got the sweet normal stuff too. I don't know how far he's got. Just for a second, I'm going to go to this view to see where the hell I am. Oh wow, there's a lot of stuff in here before. Are they all gone now? Have they all gone? No, surely they haven't. So let me just have a look. No, they haven't all gone. Here they are. Things move fast when you stop paying attention. Okay, let's go up there. So firstly, I was going to check, wasn't I? I'm just curious if this is all normaled up. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Right, sorry, where are my manners? So the other thing as well for this milestone was points of interest, specifically camera points of interest. This will just be easier to look at in this view, even though, sorry artist, it turns off some of our post-processing. So the idea is you have these circles like this that can influence the player camera. We still let the player maintain control over it. They still have sort of, they can waggle it with a stick. But also its kind of neutral position can be influenced by these. I wonder where the player character is. Come on, player character, where have you got to? There we go. Where are you? Okay, you are nearby. Good. So I think I've messed with these before. Let's just get this AI out of the way, so we save ourselves some embarrassment. Come here, you. Come on. So much stuff now. You might be in a locked layer. You know what? It's probably fine. Let's try it. Yeah, let's roll the dice. Because I suspect all the AI stuff to be broken. That's fine. I'm only interested in one thing that might work here. If not, I can explain it. And we did mess around with it in the previous demo, but it's kind of fun. Oh, they might be broken. How sad. Okay. Use your imagination. So, the deal is, we have the camera. The camera normally follows the player, which has its own point of interest. Where did the player go? There they are. All right, it's all a bit hectic. Right, let's get them somewhere we can see them on their own. So this is a point of interest on its own. And you have two rings, right? You have the larger ring here, which is basically, this means that the camera, this means that this object exerts some influence on the camera, like a little bit. It's not the primary focus. And when you reach the inner ring, it is. So it will kind of gradually move in and then snap to being inside. The thing with these is you can place them in the world. You can have them overlap with each other. They can have a priority. And how that works is because even the player, if we look at the player character, even the player character's got one, right? So normally that's what the camera focuses on. And only by changing the priority of things around it will that turn on and off. And also, you can see here, they can also be attached to AI. So I'm not so sure if we'll do that, but it's cool that we can. You might have a situation where you want the camera to follow or at least lead towards an AI. Now, I think some people, when we talk about this, were concerned that it was going to be very aggressive, like, really grab the camera as you come into a room. But in my mind, it's going to be something that's going to be layered up to subtly push the camera to do things. For example, oh, it's just got a big offset on it, that one. Let's try this one. Oh, they do as well. Interesting. For example, something I might do, it's a shame it doesn't work right now. Something I might do is have a situation here where the player runs along the bottom, and as they get towards the middle here, I just gradually nudge the camera up a bit. Either to sort of, highlight this, or maybe, to be honest, it just looks nice because, a lot of this stuff, if I take it to actual game mode, does look pretty nice. So that might be something we would do. It really depends. But let's see what else there is here. So we've covered the AI changes. We've covered the normal stuff, as in the adding of the normals. Let's have a look about anything that's not super secret that I can mention. Not too much else. Mostly bugs and stuff that we will show at some point soon. So what we can do is just hop back over to Keys level for a bit, and I will investigate what's up with that level later. Here we go. Yeah, don't save that. Oh, there is a player character in here. Oops. So let's have a look. What I might see if I can get away with is... Ooh. I didn't know that did that. All that. Oh, I see. Cool. So that is something we're experimenting with. Like that, you'll see a lot of games like this have situations where the player is self-lit, right? We're contriving reasons where that might make sense to have a bit of that. My gut feeling is a bit of it is always nice because you can see like it's relatively subtle, right? You can that is so nice. So that's something we might do, but you know what? I didn't realize was actually here yet. But I wanted to check if I could stick a point of interest in here without making everything explode. So I could show you. Yeah, it's always a way, isn't it? The one thing you don't test because you think, that'll work fine, is the thing that doesn't work. Okay. This is fine. We can do this. We can do this on the fly. So we can go. Where were we? Go here and go here, and we can check his level again, and check the object itself. Grab one of those. Come here, you. There's a timed one. Is it just a normal one? Okay, yeah, so this is... Let's have a look. It's a Visual Studio thing, of course. And it's a component. Yes, okay. I remember, it's not like I haven't been... I've been doing a lot of sort of planning and like, I haven't actually been the editor for a little while, so it's nice to be here, but also everything just doesn't feel quite as smooth as normal. So I'll have a quick look if I can get this into Keys level, and if not, I will just do a quick summary and wrap it up for the day. So it's a quick one. I just wanted to go through all the stuff we've done, and I can talk a little bit about what's coming. Yeah, so can I do this? Can I can. Yes. Wait. And then... Is that it? Yeah, that is it. Oops. Cool. Okay, so what I want to do here is just make the radius on it. Switch back to front view so I can see it better. Is I add one of these point of interest components, and hopefully let's have a look here. Active, blah, blah, blah. You can make I want the outer influence to be a lot bigger. And then I could add a separate target to it, but I believe if you don't, it just targets the center. So let's see, I don't want to change the zoom. I can't remember what that does. I should probably check, but let's just see if this works. Oh no, it doesn't. Well, the joys of doing things live, it should totally work. And it's going to be something I'll focus on a lot more heavily in the future, but it's just something that, you know, went from something to nothing during this milestone. So let me just have another quick look here. Yeah, okay. So I think that's basically everything for this milestone that we can talk about. So we've basically got the foundation of our AI work. What else? We've got the foundation of our AI work. We have got the normal stuff is coming in, and we're starting to balance that up nice with the lighting. A lot of secret stuff can't talk about yet. But between that and the AI and the greater world building, hopefully it's going to be, well, there's definitely going to be a load of cool stuff to show really soon. We're going to start focus on new player abilities. Some of them will keep under wraps, but some of them we can start showing, so that's going to be cool. Another round of changes on the player controller, because work on the player controller is never done, but I think we're finally trying to get somewhere stable with that now. But I think, yeah, kept it short and sweet. I've been so organized getting through all this milestone stuff. It's not quite as chunky as expected. So what I will do is the thing that I promised to do last time and managed to not do correctly is, firstly, so I mentioned Joe's doing a lot of our AI work and stuff like that. Joe is very cool, and Joe is also Impromptu Games. So please check it out. Yeah, oh my god, I remember to do it. Then when you get bored of Joe, and if such a thing were possible, please do check out our website, because hey, you know, we kind of like it. We have Dev Diaries, which will dive into more detail of these features. I suspect soon we'll do one on all the normal maps and things like that. And we also have a sort of newsletter, and also we have a thing, as we're partnered with Chucklefish, we have a thing on the forums where you can ask questions. Please do, because they help sort of form what I actually decide to talk about for this thing. And finally, of course, we are on Twitter, so please do send us some tweets. Yeah, it's just short and sweet. We should be starting to get back into a regular flow very soon, but I just wanted to give you guys a little heads up on what's going on. How embarrassing. I pressed the wrong button. What I meant to say was, thank you very much for watching. We're trying to make these are becoming more regular, and it's, you know, the features are really starting to speed up. So thank you very much for watching. Please check in when we're back, and that'll do for now. Goodbye.